is Samantha, and today's video is a little bit different than my usual content. I wanted to come on here and share my testimony, how I found Jesus and became a Christian. I hope that it can be encouraging to anyone out there who might have a similar story. So I want to start with talking a little bit about my childhood. I want to be careful about how much I share going into details because, like I said, I'm sharing my story, not anyone else's, and I want to respect people that were around me at that time. Basically, I had a rough childhood. I experienced a lot of trauma from it. It was just a very rough home to grow up in. It did make me grow up rather quickly, I feel like, than most children. I think I was a little bit more mature at an earlier age than other kids. But one thing that did go right is that I was brought to church kind of sporadically throughout the years, and that's when I was first introduced to Jesus. It was at a local Baptist church down the street from our house, and I remember Sunday schools there. I remember going to vacation Bible school there, and that's when I first accepted Jesus into my heart, as they say. The Bible talks a lot about little children. You must be like a little child to inherit the kingdom of God. Children are a gift from the Lord. I think that a lot of the times when children are introduced to Jesus, they want to accept him right away. I think it's something that God gave us, with the innocence and the purity of children. And sometimes as you get older, if you're introduced into sin like I was, and I kind of fell out of it for a while, but that's when I first learned about Jesus. I accepted him. I actually was baptized, and even though I was young, I truly believe that I really did love him, and it was a real baptism, and I've never been baptized again after that. So fast forward a little bit, I ended up being on my own at the age of 14. Originally, I was told by the state that I could no longer live in my home and that I had to pick a family member, so I ended up living with a family member in a pretty bad area. From that, not really having any guidance, there was no one to really tell me what to do. I was kind of on my own. I started skipping school, using drugs, all of the stuff. I thought it was cool to be bad, and it ended up just getting me into a really lost, sad cycle. My heart goes out to people who are stuck in hard situations like that. Depending on where you live, it could feel like you're in a whole nother universe. There's certain ways that people act in, different areas, and you can get into a lot of trouble really quickly if you are around not the best people. So, that was hard, but I ended up not going to school anymore, working at a local grocery store, and then by 17, I was pregnant, living on my own. Fortunately for me, I did not take the advice of the people around me to not keep the baby. Although I don't have anything against adoption. I think that adoption can be a really good option for lots of people, but in my heart, I just knew that that baby was meant for me and that I was supposed to keep her, and I just knew that for whatever reason that it would end up working out for us. So thankfully, a close family friend took me in during my pregnancy and helped me out incredibly with everything I needed for the baby. So I ended up giving birth to my daughter at 18 years old, and got a job. I was working at Wendy's. Eventually that turned into me becoming a waitress and being able to make some more money. And then I was able to get a place with another family member, so I had my own apartment that we were splitting the bills and everything, and things were working out pretty well. So for those first few years of my daughter's life, I was basically a single mother, working and just trying to keep rent paid. And then when I was 21, I met my husband then, who's been my husband for 7 years. I just knew right away that I wanted to be with him. He was sweet and was willing to right away just step up to the plate and take care of my daughter and I. And we got married, now have 4 beautiful children together, and life was pretty good at that time. Throughout those years, if you had asked me if I was a Christian or if I believed in Jesus Christ, I probably would have told you yes. There was never a point in my life where I would have denied Jesus, but I definitely wasn't living as a Christian. I wasn't living how Jesus tells us to. I was being rebellious and sinful. I did step up and I was taking care of my daughter and I was being responsible in that way, but I still had that hole in my heart only Jesus can fill. And I had a lot of emotional issues from a traumatic childhood that I needed to really deal with. I've had trouble regulating my emotions. I've had extreme anxiety, and becoming a Christian is something that really helped me with that. It wasn't until my husband got a job that moved us across the country when Jesus re-entered my life. Now, I believe he was always there. I just didn't know that. But I was a family member who came to visit me who had started watching Pastor John MacArthur on YouTube. And if you don't know him, he's a very by the Bible preacher out in California. I started listening to him, and this was during like the beginning of the pandemic, and something in me just clicked. I felt like a light bulb went off in my head. I had an overwhelming sense of love and peace and joy, and I asked that person to go with me to get a Bible, and they bought me my first Bible, and that was it. I knew I was saved. I knew that I wanted to follow Christ. I knew that I had been living in sin. I was forgiven, and that was really what reamped my journey with Christ, and it was life-changing and it was powerful. Now, when this first happened, my husband was not necessarily on board. He wasn't telling me what to do, but he wasn't interested in that yet. But when I found a church in the area, I started going, and he came with me because he didn't want me to just go to church, by myself. So eventually, after a few services, he also became a Christian and turned his life around and started following Jesus. And it was a beautiful, beautiful thing to see. It was definitely in God's plan for this to happen to us. It has helped me so much as an adult trying to navigate life when I had such a difficult upbringing. It's hard enough being an adult when you've had like a super healthy childhood and relationships with people. I've struggled with anger. I've struggled with resentment, with like not hatred, but a lot of bad feelings towards people, and I have a tendency to get overwhelmed and anxious really quickly, and that can really lead me to getting into like a hole of like negative feelings and thoughts. And instead of blaming people, I can take responsibility for my own actions that went into things that happened in my life, and I can look at it from a perspective of these people were hurt just like I was, and nobody owes me anything necessarily, and I have to understand that other people have gone through things that hurt them, which causes them to hurt you. Ultimately, God is my Father. He's the only Father I need. He has filled my life with love and joy and peace, and he's helped me so much to overcome the things that I've been through in my past. He's given me the ability to see things from a different perspective and really make me a better parent because of it. If this message helps anyone, I hope that it could help you understand that no matter what you've done, anything you've been through, sin that you might be ashamed of, that God forgives you immediately when you come to him. You are immediately forgiven. He loves you more than any person could possibly love you on this entire earth, and running to him will change your life in an incredible way. I no longer have to fear death. I used to lie awake so afraid of when I was gonna die and what was gonna happen, and I would always just have like anxious thoughts about dying one day, and I no longer feel like that because I know what's on the other side. I know what's gonna happen when I die. I just want everyone to be able to feel like that. If you have a Bible, start reading it today. Now, one thing I do want to say is I'm never going to claim to be like this perfect person now who never sins, and I'm just like this perfect Christian, because that is not the case. I still struggle sometimes with doing the right thing, but that doesn't mean I'm not saved. Every day I have to wake up and ask Jesus to help me, and sometimes I have to ask for forgiveness, but it's a lot easier now, and my life is a lot better because of it. I know that God is with me at all times, and I know that when I'm struggling, I can pray to him and that he'll help me and deliver me from those anxieties and fears. The most important thing is obviously finding a church that is reading the word, is based on the word of God, is going through the Bible book by book and not just like winging it, the sermons, and that there's theology actually being taught in the church. That's obviously number one. You know, there really is good teaching and you're learning from it and growing from it. When I read my Bible regularly and I stay in prayer regularly, that's really what keeps me on track with God. I see a noticeable change in my behaviors and what I can deal with, and my stress level goes down and my joy level goes up. When I'm not doing those things, I can also see a change where things become a little bit more negative. And I heard something on the Christian radio the other day. It was a little corny, but it's really true, and it's that your brain can't feel anxiety and gratefulness at the same time. If you start to feel anxious, all you have to do is think about the things that you're grateful for and your anxiety will go away. And you know, God does tell us to be fearful of nothing, to be anxious for nothing. In all things, just ask Him in prayer for what you need and that it'll be granted to you. That's basically my story. I was lost and now I'm found. Truly wish that everyone could experience this in their life. I really hope that this message reaches someone who needs to hear it. And thanks for watching. Bye.